as we surrounded ourselves with stacks of books from the library that only represented a fraction of my reading history, we started to question whether or not this was a good idea.
Yeah, we put them up here, and then we're like, well, what do we do with all this now?
I still think that there's something valuable here in all of this, and I was trying to think about it, and my idea is that this represents all of these stacks of books. I think the history was like 4,000 just from the library,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't include the books purchased and all of that, but represents to me the retraining and relearning of my brain for what the basic needs were in my life.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I feel as though I learned what to eat. Well, I didn't learn how to cook, but really what to eat, what was cool from the television, from friends, just from what everyone else did by going to restaurants, different things like that.
Yeah.
And so because that was what I learned, food was, even at the grocery store, learning like, this is a food grocery store. This is what food is.
Yep.
Whatever's in this grocery store is what I eat and take home. The thing was, for me, was that what I call food products did not work well for me, for my psyche, for my physical performance, for the way my physical body looked. And instead, I was questioning my worth. I was blaming myself, like, well, why don't I look like other people? Or why am I gaining weight? Or why is my face puffy?
Yeah.
Things like that. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, yeah, the same way, but my parents, we immigrated, and so we still had some of that old world food. So, like home cooked food, not takeout pizza or something like that. But we eventually succumbed. But going to my friend's house meant, I don't know, Hostess Twinkies or something.
Yes.
It meant drinking Mountain Dew. It meant Little Debbie's or whatever, all these different things. Whereas eating at home meant gourmet sabzi, which was like meat with herbs and rice and
Yes.
everything. Having a pizza at home or spaghetti meant having like bell peppers in it and fresh veggies and stuff, not and like handmade dough. Whereas other places it meant Red Baron or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My house. Yes,
So,
and
yeah.
I remember from a young child always feeling hungry, looking for. I want to share this right now as you were talking. So, I grew up with all of the food products that you would find at any American grocery store. And so for me, I have eaten every single kind of processed food. Like,
Yeah.
we would have contests for who could eat the most, Swiss cake rolls. So anything in a box, the donuts, like all of it, I could eat it. And the cereals, the sugary cereals with the skim milk, all of that, I have eaten. Now, after reading and retraining my brain and learning things, and there's a whole stack of things, because I really learned a lot from outside of the country, outside of the US. So, like that you're bringing up, you brought here different routines for eating
Right.
different foods you ate, whatever. When I was learning all of these different things, now I have said I wouldn't ever eat one of those boxed treats
Right.
for $1 million. Like you could.
You were called
and-
crazy for that.
Yes,
weren't
and
you?
I need the money. Like I don't have $1 million, nothing like that. But I really would not eat something like that now
Right.
for $1 million. Now what has changed? I've eaten that same treat hundreds of times in my life, but
Yeah.
now I wouldn't. And so that to me is really what all of this is about. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that's what all these books are about. Because how do you go from, if you don't know, so like you say, oh, I'm going to be different than that. I don't want to be like that. Well, then what are you going to be like if you don't know what other than that is?
Yes.
You know, because it's like,
Yes.
well, I don't want to eat sweets. And it's fine, but then like, what do you replace that with?
Yes.
And so that's what I feel like these books represent is
Yes.
if you had none of this growing up, then how could
Yes.
you know where to go?
Yes. I had to learn what food actually is.
Yeah,
So now I don't consider processed or anything in a product, a food product, something that I would consume for my health.
right.
So to me, that is not food. One of these books that was so impacting, I still think about it today. It was someone from the U.S. who had lived in France and really talked about the difference between France and the U.S.
Yeah,
and said people in France who visit the U.S. say you don't have any food in your supermarkets.
Right.
You don't have any food in your grocery stores. Now, if you would have said that to me before all of this, I would have been like, what are you talking about?
full of food.
It's a food grocery store.
Yeah.
It only has food. But people visiting from France, they didn't consider any of the food products in our grocery stores as something that is nourishing. Exactly, that it's not food. It's the purpose of food is to nourish us, to help our body perform, to give our body the nutrients that it's craving, or we're always going to feel hungry. And so that is not happening. It was not happening for me, and it was such a light bulb. My life changed forever learning that my body would always feel hungry until it got the nutrients it needed. Just think about that. Let that
Yeah.
really enter. And suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not my fault. It's not my fault that I can eat half a box of cereal and still be hungry. You know, it would say the serving is like a half cup. I'm like, what? I just ate half a box of it.
Well,
I had like 3, servings.
I got the
because I
ice
was
cream that said half the fat, so I would think, okay, fine, I'll have the same serving, but then I'd justify eating the whole thing by like, well, I'm eating the same as I did before, because it was half the fat.
So this reminds me of when I was growing up and struggling with my weight. I would read all the magazines. Okay, what am I supposed to eat to be healthy? And everyone was saying low fat.
Yeah,
No fat, low fat. And then there would be products like, we talk about this all the time, low fat gummy bears or whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, this is awesome. And I would eat the low fat and I would still feel hungry. I was never nourished.
yeah,
Always struggled with my weight. Didn't feel well. Tired, and I would say that point in my life where I was just like, what's wrong with me? I have everything that you're supposed to have to be happy, and I didn't want to get out of bed and go to work. That was all directly connected to I had never been nourished.
You know,
Really.
I remember I worked at a certain worldwide coffee store. And I thought it was really funny on their pastries. Some of them say lower fat blueberry scone. And I'm like, lower fat? Like, what does that mean? Lower than what? And so there were like these messages like this that these food companies would put on there, making you think, well, this is something, because like half the fat than what? Let's say. Half of what? Less than what? Well, it just seems like a whole game that's being played on us. It was played on me that I fell for. And I mean, that's why they say if you want to learn something, go to the library, read a book.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And this is true. Okay, because the cool thing about books is that they have a filter system. So there has to be a publishing company that accepts this idea and information and the words in there. Then there's editors and readers and copy editors, and so there's so many people attached to producing this book, whereas other information could just be like put out there without, I mean, the librarians, the bookstores, they even are filters because they choose to buy this to sell it. So like published books are really such a great resource. I consider all of these people friends now because their words still live in my mind. They helped me find my true self, helped me find my true happiness, helped me find compounded health day after day, year after year now.
Well, the difference between books and other form of media is that in books, there's enough room to put, like, who they cite, what the studies are, things like that you don't find in, like, someone's personal Instagram, something like that, where they say, you can eat pizza and ice cream and be ripped, or something like that. Like, really?
And that too is, I have so much going on in my mind that just the act of writing a book and going through all the research and backing it up and trying to get it published, like these people are heroes, and so I'm just so grateful for them going through the process of this. This is also, when you were talking about that, really important because when 10 plus years ago, I said, this has to be easier. There has to be a biological, answer to what humans need nutritionally to feel good and perform. I just was like, there has to, it doesn't even make sense that this is so stressful and so difficult. So when I started searching, I knew that I did not want any sort of trend.
Right.
Like a diet or trend or anything. This is not what this is about.
No.
It is about what we need as humans. We're born with needs for water and food, so there has to be a biological answer to how to provide those needs for ourselves.
Totally.
There's a trend doesn't even fit into that equation because it doesn't make sense.
No.
So I knew that, and that's really what I resonated to, and the information is there, and what is so interesting is that I just literally immersed myself. I would carry stacks of books from the library, anything related to food and cooking and different, you're laughing, but
I'm just thinking about so whenever Laura would say, honey, could you go to the library and pick up some books? And I'd be driving home or something. And it's like, oh yeah, sure. I go in there and I always think pick up some books as just 3 at the max. I kid you not. Sometimes, no, the stack was never, well, yeah, sometimes it was this tall. And mind you, this isn't all the books
No,
that
this
Laura,
is a
there's another
fraction.
stack over there, and we had more at the library waiting for us to pick up. But I said,
And-
honey, we have enough books, I think.
And we had a limit of how much
Yeah.
we could check out, so this isn't even near
So-
the amount.
What we did was go through Laura's history at the library, and we checked out as many books as they would let us that she has checked out. So we have a pretty substantial amount of your reading history. And the thing that keeps popping up in my head is when you thought you could just walk to the library and pick up your books with your dog Aphrodite. And
Yeah, and at first, the stack was like, I could carry this home, and then like, oh my gosh, I was crying, like, I can't carry these. I'm gonna have to just abandon books like around the neighborhood.
drive back and pick them up.
Yeah. And the other thing too that really stuck out to me was the librarians who are so thoughtful, and they don't say a lot, but one did say, like, somewhere in this journey, I want to eat Thanksgiving dinner at your house. So they definitely were noticing.
Yeah.
But the really miraculous and cool thing is during this search for the answer, biology textbooks, cooking from chefs, I would love looking at cookbooks from ancient times. I would love reading books that were like anthropological, like studying a culture in a different part of the world.
Or what were some of them we have? Yeah.
I loved reading like about nutrition, but that got really trendy type, you know? So I just wanted like basics, you know? So I loved
Just the facts.
Yes, and I loved reading, even though it's like, I don't want to say it because it could come off as a trend, but the Paleolithic, because that got way back in time before all of the inventions that seemed to kind of skew what food was. And the cool thing is they share so many tenets. So I would read something in a cookbook, and then it would totally make sense in a nutrition book. And then the chefs would be saying something that like meant the same thing as well. So, and I really am grateful to the books that were outside of the country, like how you said, because that's really what I found, that, you know, that I learned the secret is in the ingredients. So we only find our nutrients from nutrient-dense food.
Yeah.
You know, where that has been produced in nutrient-dense soil. So the soil health and the air quality and the water, all of that creates the best ingredients. And basically, you don't need to read any of this. You just have to find the best ingredients and then not mess them up.
Or just ask you.
Come on over. I wish you could smell right now what's cooking. It's so delicious.
Well, that's why Toxi-Free was made.
Yes. Yes.
So that all that information is out there.
So
And that's why I got the crash course. How long ago was it? 5 years?
Yeah.
Has it been? Yeah, I've been wanting this lifestyle, but I didn't know how to do it. And I'm not as voracious a reader as you are. I do
Or
love to
determined.
read.
Or,
Yeah, no.
you know, I don't know.
And so, I mean, it
Or
just...
you had a more exciting life than me being in the apartment.
But I would bring all these books home. And I'd be like, does she really read all these books? And she does. I would watch, like, have them by the bed, and not all of them, but there would be, like, this transitional area where they'd go through this rotation, and it was really cute. And then I would just like, oh my gosh, yeah, she does read all these books and have little marks and stuff, little notes.
So a couple of things that I did want to share is like for cookbooks, those I just recommend if you, so here's, I'm going to back up because I have developed a theory throughout all this, and it really is, it works for us. So the theory is as our food ingredients quality has diminished, because that's really recent, that processed foods, industrial meat, industrial dairy has entered our culinary world.
Yeah.
What my theory is that we've had to create recipes in order to cover up those unappealing flavors
right,
from what has been produced industrially. So, for instance, you can look this up. It is completely legal in the U.S. to feed our meat that become, well, our animals that become our meat for eating, waste. So it's a cool system when you think about it, like taking waste from one company and then feeding it to our food. However, that is causing a lot of health problems because that's not the natural diet, and you are really eating candy wrappers, and there can be certain percentages of like excrement, and I mean, this is what you're eating. And then when you apply heat to that, if there's any chemicals in your pan, the heat from your chemicals in your pan can create like a reaction where it's getting a weird smell. The food has toxins in it, the industrial food, created food products. Anything that that industrial animal has eaten, all of that is going to come out, and it's not going to smell good for you.
No.
So a lot of people...
And coming out of you either.
And coming out of you.
The smell.
Yes.
Your scent.
Yes, your
signifies
scent.
What you eat.
Totally. And your pets, everything. So
you have to cover up your smell.
Yes.
Just like you have to cover up the flavor. You over salt it. You put sauce on it. Yes. Sugar. All that stuff.
And that's what all those recipes are, about. And then also, a lot of you might just say, ugh, like, I cannot cook. I don't like the taste of this. I'm going to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Because our hunger is so basic. I mean, when we're hungry, we have to eat. So it's not easy to put off that craving. I know that females are better at calorie restriction, because of the pressures to look a certain way. But I think it's very difficult to, and my heart goes out because I used to try to calorie restrict, and it's such a stressful way to live.
I couldn't imagine counting calories.
Yeah, you don't need to. So when you find the real food,
have a spreadsheet.
That's the thing. Like, you don't need trends. The only thing you have to do is find the real food and not mess it up when you cook it, and then that's it.
Now, but I had problems with this from the beginning. Yes. So it's like, but I felt like, but I need that coffee and bagel, ham, cheese, bagel
whatever
on the way to work or something. I need, because these were things that were just built in my psyche. Like, for instance, well, I can only write at a coffee shop, and to be at a coffee shop, I need to have like also a croissant or something else to go along with it. Like, these are things that were built into my head. Like, this is where you do that. This is how you do this.
This
And
is what
this-
it looks like.
yeah.
This is...
Otherwise,
yeah.
it just can't be done. Like, for instance, you can't run without running shoes. Well, humans have been running for millennia without running shoes,
Yes.
for instance. But you can live without restaurant food. You can write or be creative without going to a cafe. You can do all these things. And saved a lot of money, I'd say.
You saved so much money.
And now I can be creative no matter where I am, because it's not tied to a location. It's not tied to a what do you call it? Like a ritual. You know, it's not. Creativity doesn't have to be inspired by a certain ritual. It can just be.
I
Yeah.
have so much to say right now, because the other thing is, in that whole scenario, is what about what that those chemicals are doing to your actual brain?
Yeah.
So your brain cells are not performing at their height. You eventually are going to crash down. So then your brain will be hijacked to be thinking about, what else can I eat? And when can I eat this? And when you were talking, I couldn't help but think about this book, The Perfect Health Diet.
Yeah.
This was an amazing book, and they talk about in there about the oldest living practicing pediatrician, a woman who was still practicing at age 108.
Yeah.
And she, they were celebrating her birthday. It was a big deal. And they were trying to give her cake, birthday cake.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example. How do you not have birthday cake
On your birthday.
on your birthday? Like, this is just, it's almost universal.
Yeah.
So she just said to them, I haven't eaten cake in 80 years. Like,
Yeah.
that is the connection. Like, she is a practicing pediatrician at the age of 108, being celebrated by the world
Right.
because she hasn't eaten cake for 80 years. Like that's what happens.
Exactly. It's
So-
really interesting.
My mom, who's a scientist, and she would not mind me telling you this, but she was always like challenging me on this. Like, what are you talking about? And what do you mean it's not food? Like, that doesn't make sense, and different things like that. And I just said, Mom, I said, there are health problems today that never existed. All I want is just, for people to have the truth. So when you eat the ice cream, she loves ice cream.
Oh my gosh.
But at the same time, she's always talking to me as she ages about this fear that she is going to lose this genius level IQ that she has, like her working brain, like, she's going to start forgetting, or the dementia, or even Alzheimer's. And I'm just like, well, Mom, I'm like, the ice cream has a lot of chemicals. Like, how do you know that is not creating it? So it would just, to me, seems more fair in life to have the ice cream say, these ingredients can cause Alzheimer's, or, have it
It's
in
like
the
cigarette
name or
packages.
something.
They are forced to have labels
Yes.
warning people of their
Yes.
hazards, and it's like
Right.
right there.
Yeah, like,
You
just,
can't miss it.
and it doesn't even have to be scary or threatening. It can just be factual, like,
Yeah.
there's chemicals in here that, can cause this. So if right now something that you could do is watch the documentary called Fed Up, FEDUP, and it would give you a lot of this book information in like an hour or however long it is. And they talk about in there how we're going to look back on this time, and it is going to be similar to the cigarette companies.
Yeah.
We're going to look back and go, how was this legal? And there's some very interesting interviews where people are even like, how do the companies sleep at night?
Right.
You know, so I highly recommend you watching that. So it's a lot easier than getting all these books.
Well, what are your top books that have like?
Yes.
Yeah.
Looking back, I mean, this, like, the one that I started really with is called Real Food: What to Eat and Why by Nina Plank. I mean, just so many amazing things. Like, this really got me starting to question what food is. And it was so easy to read. I even found the I even found the organic coconut oil that's been traditionally made from this book that we use still to this day. Like, that's probably 15 years or something. So I'm so grateful to that. And then after that, like, these two were just amazing. So this was kind of next. This Deep Nutrition and the this other one, I think it's called Primal Fat Burner. I think Nora had this as a different title, but these two, Shanahan and Nora here, these were really monumental. So the things that I learned here were like ounce for ounce, because before I met Behzad, I was on my own. I didn't have a lot of, well, we still don't have a lot of money, but you know, it was intimidating to start buying these things. So I learned in here that ounce for ounce liver, without a doubt, from a grass-fed animal, is the most nutritious thing you can eat. And if it comes from a super impeccable, healthy animal, so no steroids, no antibiotics anywhere, completely 100% grass-fed diet from good soil. So she talks about how you know if something's healthy, and it's like the air, the water, the soil, the nutrients, the plant that the animal eats, or just the plant that you're eating, all of these things that go into it. And my brain was like, oh my gosh, this makes sense in my soul. This is not a trend.
No.
This is what I've been searching for, a biological, the sun, the moon, the soil. Like, I'm like, yes, this makes so much sense. And it was the other amazing thing, and I always tell people, and I tell Behzad about this, was one of these, I can't remember which one, in the foreword, I believe, talked about that with this knowledge, we might be the only ones left standing. Like, this literally is such an advantage in life, to have this way of life, to have this knowledge. And I knew I wanted to be one of those who was still standing. Like, that is what resides in all of us. We are born with this deep desire to survive and thrive in life. And that's what was happening for me. I was not thriving. And so I was constantly searching. You know, I would buy things thinking that would help me, searching for food, and then I would gain weight and nothing was like nourishing me, and just searching. And now I'm not searching.
The search is over.
The search is over. Oh my gosh. Yes. What do you think?
There's some other great books in there, like Twinkie Deconstructed. Slow Death by Rubber Duck, I think is the things that you've mentioned in there, just like the toxins and chemicals in your everyday products.
I talk about all of these. Yeah. Eat dirt.
Sicker, fatter, poorer. Yeah, eat dirt.
Yes.
I mean, these are just
where they just
necessary.
shifted
Yeah.
my brain, how I thought about things, which completely. So as I made my way down the nutrition, I came across Mark Sisson, who is nutrition, but then started talking about sleep, natural sleep, and how artificial light is a recent invention, how like the running shoes with the big soles are recent inventions, and his whole premise is, and this is where part of that paleo thing
Yeah.
is, to get back to our original, like, pre-industrial way of life. So it's like the caveman diet,
Yeah.
or the, his literal,
Before we screwed everything up diet.
yeah, his literal logo is like a caveman with the spear, things. And this again was like, this is not a trend. Like, this is just feels right deep within my DNA, just stretching back. And so my brain would constantly be trying to think about so far back of what life was like. And Mark Sisson does an amazing job of walking you through what life was like. And it's so different, and that still guides me. So now I always talk about us like hunting and gathering from farms, and from what we're choosing to find to eat, and sleeping in total darkness, considering the different lights, all of that, and the effect. So then that was starting to change my brain about, it's beyond just what I'm eating, beyond the nutrition. And that's when I started finding so many different, like Josh Axe, who said it's not only what you eat, but also what you touch. And 60 to 70% of what we put our skin goes directly into the bloodstream, just like what you're eating. And I'm like, what? And so, and just knowing like how valuable the nutrients are and how difficult it can be to find. Another thing, the Perfect Health Diet, that is such an amazing one. They alerted me to, okay, so now we know, the nutrients are in the nutrient-dense food. However, completely grass-fed beef from Western Canada versus Eastern Canada, the selenium amount in those two regions can vary by hundreds. So you can be eating grass-fed beef from Western Canada and only get a little bit of selenium, whereas if you get it from Eastern Canada, that soil health has more selenium. So even when you find the really nutrient-dense food, all of these things are in part of the creating the nutrients.
That's the thing, though. It's like a type of food was always tied to where it came from. For instance, like cheeses or wines,
Yes.
or champagne, just from Champagne, France, right? And so, but the one thing I know is a lot of cattle, they're raised in Brazil now. And it's like all corn. And one of the reasons is McDonald's wants their beef to taste the same no matter where it is. And so all the cattle have to eat the same diet in order for that to happen. And so it's not rooted in the land anymore, in the soil, in anything, really. It's just, it's no holds bar, and whatever, it's very industrialized. And then because of that, that gets also put in the grocery stores. And so that's what becomes available to us because of the demand for everything to taste the same. When in order to make that happen, you have to degrade the environment and all these practices that, like, you should be able to taste, and the nutrients should be different from one place to another because the mineral content will be different. The flora will be different. All these things are different.
The little herbs and plants that they eat. Totally. That is such a great point.
Because you are seasoning your animal with the herbs before you eat it because they eat like the herbs that's in the soil and that are growing from it. But if they're just so with these great meats that we get, you don't have to put a lot of herbs on top of it because it's already flavored because the animal ate those healthy herbs. So yeah, that just shows you everything, how it affects your body, the way you smell, the way you act, the way you feel, everything.
And you know, if you suffer from any sort of kind of modern ailment, even like allergies, asthma, digestion, a lot of this can be start thinking about like that animal that you were describing with the corn diet. Well, where did the seed come from? Like, is there, is it non-GMO? Is it organic seed, or does it already have toxins put in the seed? Because your body might be reacting to the seed that grew the corn, or the pesticides that were put onto the corn. And one last thing, we appreciate your time so much, but that's the other thing is when you hear environmentally that eating meat is worse for the environment because of all of the resources, that is for industrial.
Yeah.
Because when
industrial feedlots, they call them. Yeah.
Yes, because of the concentrated. Well, first you have to grow all the corn, takes up all those resources, all that space.
Monoculture.
Yes, the monoculture, and then you have the concentrated feed areas, that causes so much pollution and
concentrated excrement that has
yes, it's not natural. But when you have grass-fed, natural, eat well, like all of the natural ecosystem, that is actually reversing climate change. It is producing carbon that takes
it captures the carbon.
It captures the carbon, which is reducing the climate change.
Yep.
And so if you also add to your video list, Kiss the Ground.
Yes. Be
prepared to just be completely blown away and have your brain changed as well. Like, you don't have to read all this. Fed Up, Kiss the Ground. You will have such an amazing education. Yes, you can watch us anytime. But really what Toxi Free does so well is it's like the every person able to do this. So someone like me who only knew how to cook by pouring cereal and milk on it, now I wouldn't ever eat cereal, and I haven't in years and years and years. So we help people find the good ingredients, find the things that will protect those valuable nutrients, and just really, really be able to thrive.
Yeah.
That is what it's all about.
Absolutely. What do you think?
Success!
Well, I hope you learned a lot because we went through a lot.
we have a lot of returning of books to do, but I just love they've affected my life so positively. It's just amazing. I'm so grateful.
We should have counted how many books we have here.
Yeah. Bizarre carried them all up here.
I did.
I'm like, thank you, honey.
Who needs a gym?
Yeah.
When you're getting books for Laura.
Thank you so much.
Bye.